Because we don't protect American workers and American jobs anymore. Because we didn't get a memo about the coup of 1913 and what was going to happen. These aren't free trade laws. They're slavery laws initiated by the ruling elite so that we and our manufacturers can use their slave labor. If we put an import tax on that and leveled it out, we'd be wealthy. But then the jobs would return here. And that's the way the game is played by the ruling elite and the sleepy American people. The second part of the coup is the 17th Amendment. Now, I want to bring up the 7th Amendment and relate it to the income tax. It says, suits in common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20. So if you have a controversy with the IRS, chances are it exceeds $20, wouldn't you say? So what you have a right is you have a right of trial by your peers, and no fact tried in it by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined. So you can have no double jeopardy. The ruling is final. The Supreme Court can't overrule it. Then according to the rules of common law. Tell me, when have you had a trial by common law? Any of you? In the 20th century. They've taken a whole category of the law which our founders liked. It was called the People's Law. Because at the founding of this nation, many people didn't write, they just made exits. So when you look at what is common law, if I went into a tax court and I wanted to base my objection to a tax on my inalienable right, my income, I wouldn't get a trial by common law. It would be a trial by this flag. You see, you think this is the flag of the United States of America. It is not. It's a flag of admiralty law. When you see this golden stuff, and you walk into a courtroom, you're going to be judged under admiralty law, which is all contract law and statutory law. There's going to be no common law for you in that courtroom. And there's going to be no justice. Because if a judge today wants to climb up the judiciary, look at what a conflict of interest. He's a federal employee. That itself, he should be recused. Because he's got to look out for the company store. And they do. Because if you how many of you see Aaron Russo's movie, The Freedom to Fascism? Raise your hand if you've ever seen that. The documentary. No kidding. Wow, well, there's a Judge West in there that says, don't bring the Constitution into my courtroom. That's what most tax judges say today. Don't bring that into my courtroom. Say what? Don't bring the Constitution into his courtroom. Why? Because he's ruling under statutory law or admiralty law and not under constitutional law. And so any argument that is constitutional that you bring to that court will be thrown out. He'll say it's frivolous. The courts have decided. And that's what we have today. Now the Fifth Amendment says, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against yourself. Because if you want to have a trial and have it under civil law, because it's a money issue, they're going to move it to a criminal court. Why? They're going to say you had a failure to file. Now imagine, if you don't fill out a piece of paper at 1040 form, you can go to jail for 5 years and be fined $100,000 because you didn't fill out this paper. But see, if you know the Fifth Amendment, it says you have a right to not self-incriminate yourself. Even if you just innocently make a mistake, they can send you to jail. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Because that's what the 16th Amendment did. It's based on fluff and mirrors. And the Founding Fathers couldn't possibly conceive a tax on your income. So you got to know these things. But then juries will say, oh, because you thought you were paying your fair share. Right? You ever heard that term? Pay your fair share? We can't let him get away with this. He's not paying his fair share. What's fair about unconstitutionality? But we can't defend what we don't know. If you don't know the Constitution, you cannot defend it. And you're certainly not taught it in the public school system. So, here's how the IRS gets around that. This is right from the IRS manual, chapter 1100. And this is what it says, by their own admission. The purpose of the IRS is to encourage and achieve the highest possible degree of voluntary compliance in accordance with the tax laws and regulations. Did you get those two words? Voluntary compliance. You probably thought it was mandatory, didn't you? Except when people are going to jail for not paying a tax on their income. Well, it's not. It's all voluntary compliance. But like the mafia strongman, if you don't comply, they're going to coerce you. And then they're going to twist the Constitution so you can't possibly understand. And they're going to throw a mountain of statutory laws and clauses. If you've never read the IRS manual, just take any 3 pages and read them. And then write down what it means after you've read those 3 pages. You won't be able to understand it. Because it has been intentionally written to be vague. So therefore, we the people leave it up to the experts. But if you're really an expert on your Constitution, you would know what a farce it is, and what a lie it is, and what a convergence of everything the Constitution stands for, especially the rights of sovereigns to walk this land as kings and queens. So here's Santo Presti, who couldn't stand it anymore. He was a criminal investigator. There's a lot of these people around, by the way, who wrote a book called IRS in Action. And this is what he said. And this is exactly what Dr. Rosa says. How do you control people? You do it through fear. Fear is a key element for the IRS in achieving its mission. Without fear, the IRS would have a difficult time maintaining our so-called system of voluntary compliance. Just that simple. Without fear. And here's what President Harry Truman had to say about that. When even one American who has done nothing wrong is forced by fear to shut his mind and close his mouth, then all Americans are in peril. And since the passage of the 16th Amendment, ladies and gentlemen, all Americans have been in peril. Now, this is a very interesting Supreme Court decision. I threw it in because it was about the income tax. Supreme Court, U.S. versus Minker. And this is what the Supreme Court said. Because of what appears to be lawful command on the surface, many citizens, because of their respect for what appears to be law, are cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to ignorance. And that's what we have been, cunningly coerced because of our ignorance of that old, venerable document. So I would encourage all of you to read just those 2 paragraphs in the Constitution on direct tax and indirect tax and find out that the income tax doesn't apply to either a direct tax or indirect tax. Because the truth is, it's a capitation tax. The government comes to you directly. It's on your head. That's what capitation means. But since the Supreme Court back in 1895 said